So, hello everyone. Are you preparing for your clinical research interview in 2025 or 2026? Then this video is your ultimate roadmap to success. Whether you're a fresher or an experienced professional, this clinical research interview guide will walk you step by step through everything you need to know before you step into that interview room. In this video, we'll cover every stage of the interview preparation, starting from understanding your job description, identifying qualification and skill recruiters are looking for, and exploring the best courses that can actually boost your chances of getting hired. We'll also deep down into both core interview questions and situational interview questions, helping you answer confidently and professionally just like a pro. Plus, we'll bring you the latest industry updates which can help you gain clarity on expectation and guide you through salary and negotiation right up to joining formalities and confirmation. So if you are serious about cracking clinical research interview and building a strong career in this industry, make sure you watch this video till the end. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you'll never miss the upcoming interview guide and interview tips. Your journey to a clinical research interview success starts right here. So we will start by understanding the layout of this clinical research interview guide. This particular interview guide will be divided into 8 major sections which are very critical right up to the start of the job search to getting your offer and joining formalities. Okay, so we'll start with the job description and then we'll move on to understanding the qualification and skills for each and every job role, followed by core interview question. And once we understand those, then we'll move to situational question. Once we have situational question understanding, then we'll move on to the questions related to the industry updates. Okay, and once we have a clear understanding of what are the important industry updates, then we'll move on to understanding the clarity on expectation, because at the end of the day, whatever expectation are of your employer as well as what are your expectations, that needs to be discussed in the entire interview process and the preparation as well, so that you are in a better position to negotiate and understand. Speaking about negotiation, we'll also discuss a major area of the entire interview preparation is salary negotiations, and understanding what are the current market trend, what is the expected salary, how to negotiate a good offer package so that you can start your career with a successful note. Okay, and last but not the least, we'll also understand the joining and confirmation formalities, because I have observed that this particular section no one discusses about that, what particular documentation are required while joining, what is the notice period formalities, what is the joining formalities. So if you see the entire map of this interview guide, right from understanding the job description to joining and confirmation formalities, it is a holistic approach. So I would request you to watch this video till the end so that you stick on to the entire process of interview right up to the joining formalities. So let us start this journey. So coming on to job description. Now, job description is one of the most critical areas of the entire interview preparation process, because the job description essentially gives you the cheat codes of preparation. Okay, and a lot of people, even I've seen experienced people also, do not read the entire job description, and which is very unprofessional, because at the end of the day, whatever job you're applying for, the job description clearly demonstrate or clearly states what are the roles and responsibility. As you can see here, this is a particular job description for a CRC role. Okay, so essentially if you see, we can break down this particular job description. First, there is an introduction part. There they have clearly mentioned that it is a full-time job or a full-time internship. Okay, then they clearly mentioned that who is it for. It is for a fresher and graduate. Okay, and they have clearly mentioned that once you complete this internship, you're also eligible for a full-time job. Okay, so it is an internship, but it has a higher probability of converting into a job. Okay, so that is a good for a fresher candidate. The second part is by understanding the role and responsibility. Okay, so whenever you're subjected to an interview for this particular job, they will clearly ask you what are the roles and responsibilities, which they have already told you in the job description itself. Okay, so I request each and every one of you to please read the job description first before applying, because if you don't read the job description, if you directly appear to the interview and you're not able to answer that question, that makes you look foolish. Okay, that is a not smart choice whenever going into that interview. Okay, so before you apply to any particular job, it is very very important that you read the job description. In job description there are critical points which can make or break your interview as well as your career. Okay, so for some job interview, I've seen CRCs who apply for a CRA job. Now, if we discuss clinical research jobs in particular, CRC is a job where you have to visit to the hospital on a daily basis and you have to visit one single location. But when it comes to CRA job, it is a traveling job. You have to keep on traveling at least 10 to 14 days a month. Okay, but if you don't read the CRA job description and a CRC directly applies and they are not comfortable with the travel, then that doesn't make sense. Okay, because if you would have read the job description, they have clearly mentioned that whether you need to travel, what is the travel percentage, and what is the requirement. Okay, that is another thing. Next thing would be the requirement part of it. Okay, so for this particular role, they always tell you what are the roles, what are the responsibility, and what are their requirements. For example, in this particular example, they have mentioned that they need a bachelor's degree, they need management skill, they need communication skill, and they need someone who is willing to relocate. So if you do not want to relocate to any other place, and if you apply to this particular job, you're wasting the interviewer's time. Okay, so that you need to understand. Again, some people are looking for a work from home option, and they have clearly mentioned that work location is in person, which means that you have to visit to the office. Okay, so if you analyze this particular job description, they have clearly mentioned what are the roles, responsibility, requirement, location, traveling, whether it is a full-time job, whether it is an internship. But a lot of people do not do that. So I would urge each and every one of you, whenever you're applying for any kind of interview, whether you're applying for any kind of job, always ask for a job description if it is not given. If it is given, then at least go through it step by step so that you are better prepared. Okay, because I've seen that half of my interview preparation gets over whenever I read the job description. Because if there is anything which I do not know and which is required for that particular role, it clearly clicks to me that either I need to update my skills and learn whatever is required for this particular job, or I don't need to go into the particular job. Okay, so always focus on job description, which is a critical parameter. Now, next part is qualification and skill. Okay, so whenever it comes to clinical research job, everyone assumes that whatever qualification and skills I have, that will be enough. But that is an assumption. Okay, so always understand what are the requirements. So for clinical research, any student must hold a degree in healthcare and life sciences. It can be from various field. Okay, not necessarily people from medicine and pharma background are eligible for clinical research jobs. People from biotechnology, biochemistry, microbiology, botany, zoology, biomedical sciences, biophysics, and even nursing are applicable, are eligible for clinical research jobs. Okay, so if you are from any of this background, then please don't feel disheartened. Please apply for this clinical research job, because there are tremendous amount of opportunities. It is just that no right person is going to the right opportunities. Okay, and if you are someone who belongs to this particular field and you are getting rejected, then please analyze, ask for feedback. Okay, they will give you feedback, and do not wait for a rejection. Right at the end of the interview, you ask for a feedback. Okay, 9 out of 10 times whenever I have asked for my feedback, they have clearly told me whether they were selecting me or rejecting me. If they were rejecting me, I have requested them to at least let me know the reasons so that I can improve for my next interview. Okay, so you need to know what are the qualification for that particular role. Next thing is that if you are from this particular background, you need minimum 55% in your degrees to be eligible for this particular job role. Okay, so always have that particular marks, because that is the threshold set by the industry. It is not a hard and fast rule, but whatever I have experienced, I have gained 10 years in the clinical research industry. I know that they look for this particular percentage. Okay, not 60%, but 55% is the minimum. Next thing which is more critical is the certification or diploma in clinical research. Okay, so people with all this particular field can have their degree, can have their knowledge, but for a clinical research field which you are entering into, you need to have some kind of bona fide, some kind of credentials, some kind of skills. Okay, without that you will not be able to understand what exactly is done there. Okay, because you have to understand that clinical research is never taught in our traditional curriculum, may that be in biotechnology, biochemistry, zoology, botany, nursing. It is nowhere taught. Okay, so that is why it becomes our responsibility to gain those skill set and gain that understanding. And speaking about skills and certification, so I have observed that when it comes to clinical research, the certification which people are offering, they are very, very expensive, which is very unfair to people who have completed the entire degree and spent a lot of money. Therefore, from my almost 10 years of experience, I have created certification for people, for students who are on a budget. Okay, so I have created five major certification which I'll explain it to you. So this one is for fresher who doesn't know anything about clinical research. It is an advanced certification course in clinical research, clinical data management, and pharmacovigilance. It will give you a brief overview of the entire clinical trial process as well as an idea about clinical data management and pharmacovigilance. If you are someone who wants to start their career in clinical data management, then you need a focused approach. That is why I have prepared this particular certification, which is advanced certification in clinical data management, and I have updated all the role requirement, what are the processes involved in clinical data management, so that you are in a better position of starting that particular interview. Recently, I have introduced this particular certification, which is advanced certification in pharmacovigilance and drug safety. So a lot of students from pharmacy background are interested in pharmacovigilance and drug safety, and majorly pharma students are always preferred for drug safety and pharmacovigilance. So for those particular students, I have created this particular unique course where I teach you each and every aspect about pharmacovigilance, drug safety, adverse event, ICSR reporting, MADRA coding. So, and if you observe all the certification, they are under 600 rupees. Okay, so they are very affordable. I would request you to complete all the certifications so that you are very well aware with the fundamentals, which are basics of clinical research. All these courses are available on this particular Udemy website, Udemy platform. You can download the app also of the Udemy, purchase this course, and you can complete it. They are very budget friendly courses, and they are going to help you a lot in clinical research. Again, people who are already in clinical research and want to go for a CRA role, it is very difficult. So I have created a dedicated course called as Clinical Research Associate Training Program, where I have created this particular program for people who are looking to go into CRA role, because as you know that from going from CRC to CRA is very difficult. Okay, it is a totally different ball game. So what exactly is a CRA position, how to handle site monitoring, how to handle clinical trial site, what are the GCP requirement, what are the traveling consideration, how to adjust and manage site. So everything I have distilled, whatever I have experience of 10 plus years, I have added in this particular course. So it will be very, very helpful, and it is unique, one of a kind course. So I would request you, if you are interested, link is given in the description. You can check this particular course out and you can complete this particular course. Again, I'll explain you about this particular course, which is the cancer clinical research and oncology trials certification. So as you know that oncology is like the aerospace of clinical research. Okay, whatever cutting edge research is happening, first it comes to oncology clinical trial, and understanding oncology is very, very critical, and it is one of the most growing field where you get the highest paying job. But for that you need clear understanding of cancer fundamentals, cancer detection, what are the racist criteria, how to perform TNM staging, what are the available cancer treatment. Okay, so all that you need to know. So whatever I have learned in the industry, whatever they ask you in the interview, I have distilled all the essence in as short as 3.5 hours, and I have created this course. Again, you will find this particular course on udemy.com. You can download the app, and you can use the link in the description. You can purchase this course and get ready. Okay, once you complete all these courses, you are in a better position to understand the fundamentals as well as how to crack that particular clinical research interview. So we have covered the training as well as the skill part of it. Now, next up, let us understand the core questions. So, whenever you are going for clinical research interview, that can be for CRC, CRA, or any kind of clinical research job, they would ask you core question. The first chapter would be on basic. The first question will start right from defining what is clinical trial, what are the phases of the clinical trial, can you distinguish between phase 1 and phase 4? Okay, what is single blinded studies, what are double blinded study, what is a drug development process, can you explain me the process starting from preclinical phase to clinical phase to post marketing phase? Okay, these are the type of basic core question that they will ask. Okay, if you do not know, then I would highly recommend the certification that you complete and you understand. Okay, because these are the question that will set an example of out of you or any impression of yourself in the mind of the interviewer. Okay, within a few minutes on your clinical trial definition or your phase trial, they will understand whether you know or not. Okay, so focus on the basic question. The second kind of question come from the history. Okay, so what is the historical origin of clinical trial? When was the first clinical trial conducted? Can you tell us about the Nuremberg Code? What is Declaration of Helsinki? Okay, when was the ICH created? Okay, what is ICH GCP? Okay, so these are the historical questions, the major historical milestone whatever there are related to clinical research that you are expected to know, because these disasters, these historical event has laid down the guidelines that we currently use in the industry. Okay, that is why this question becomes very important. Next thing is GCP. GCP are the good clinical practices. The entire functioning of the clinical research industry works on GCP guidelines. Okay, so it is very important for you to understand what is ICH GCP, what are the 13 principles of ICH GCP, which are the latest amendment in ICH GCP. Now recently we have E6R3 amendment, but you also need to know what is E6R2 and what is E6R3. What are the updates in E6R3? Okay, so that these kind of question clearly demonstrates your understanding of GCP, the regulatory, the guidelines, as well as if they ask you about E6R3, then they clearly know that you are updated of it. Next set of question is regarding stakeholders. Now, whenever it comes to clinical trial, there are multiple stakeholders involved, such as sponsor, ethics committee, the subject, the CRO, the regulatory authority, the global players. You need to know which are the global players, which is the regulatory authority, which is the Indian regulatory authority. Now, a lot of people say that FDA is the Indian regulatory authority, but it is not true. The Indian regulatory authority is called as CDSCO. Okay, so if you have that kind of core understanding of the basics, then it clearly distinguishes. Even if you don't have experience in clinical research, it doesn't matter until and unless you have very good hold of your core interview based questions. Okay, so always know the stakeholders, which are they in your particular region, as well as what are their roles and responsibility. Now coming on to safety. In clinical trial, adverse event, adverse drug reaction, serious adverse event, the SAE criteria are very critical. Again, if the study volunteer or the subject suffers an SAE, serious adverse event, then what is the compensation given in that? What are the timelines? How is the safety reporting done? These also are our core interview questions. Okay, they will ask you such question. What is the difference between adverse event and serious adverse event? Can you tell us? Okay, so always prepare for such kind of interview question. Last group of core questions would be the trial conduct. Okay, so whenever you conduct a clinical trial, there are various processes. Okay, so they will ask you what is informed consenting. Can you tell us about consenting? What are the Alcoa principle? How to handle the lab sample? What is the IP handling requirement? What are the good documentation practices, or how source documentation is done? Okay, these are practical questions or functional question of the entire trial conduct. Okay, so if you focus on the core questions right from the basics, the history, the GCP, the stakeholders, the safety, the trial conduct, I have given you at least 20 to 25 questions right here itself. If you do not know even one single aspect of this core question, then I would request you to go back, study on this aspect and be prepared. If you prepare for this six major section, you'll be very confident going into any kind of clinical research interview. Okay, so that was about the core interview questions. Now, once they establish that you are very good with core interview question, you have a good understanding, they will ask you situational question, because at the end of the day, clinical trial is a functional activity. There are major challenges of situation that appear at each and every day. Okay, so they will ask you question based on conduct of the trial. how a trial is conducted at the hospital or a research site. Okay, you need to know at least the process if you have not actually conducted. Then they will ask you question regarding consenting. What is informed consenting? How does a consent form look? What is the ICF process? What do you mean by legally acceptable representative or impartial witness? Okay, how do you document the consent? Okay, these are the situational question. They can ask you trick question such as, if a subject is conscious, then do we use the LAR or IW? Okay, so if you don't know what is LAR or IW, it clearly states that you're not ready for this particular job. Okay, because consenting is one of the most critical aspect of the entire clinical research. Okay, next is the documentation part. Okay, whenever it comes to clinical research, you have to document each and every aspect of it, because in clinical research there is a saying that if it is not documented, then it did not happen. Okay, so documentation should be a forte. They will ask you question regarding the case report form, regarding the ICF narration, regarding the data entry, how to handle the query, what are the Alcoa principle. Okay, you need to know that when it comes to documentation. Followed by question regarding to the patient or the study volunteers, how to handle the subject queries, what kind of queries have you observed, how are you handling the lab sampling, how do you process the sample, what is the shipment frequency, do you ship the primary and the backup sample together? If yes, why? If no, then why not? Okay, you need to understand that you cannot ship the primary and the backup sample, because if anything happens to that particular shipment, then you lose the entire sample. That is why the primary and backup are shipped separately, so that even if one particular sample is lost in transit or is damaged, then you have a backup of it. Okay, so you need to demonstrate this clear understanding. Next is regarding the patient safety. Okay, so what kind of adverse event are expected of a particular drug? What are the serious adverse event? What are the criteria? If there is a serious adverse event, they will give you situation. For example, a subject is unconscious. Is that an SAE? If a subject has passed away, is that an SAE? Okay, what are the reporting timeline? What are the process? And are you the one who is capable of determining causality? Definitely no. Causality is determined by anyone who is medically qualified, which is the principal investigator. Okay, such kind of answers they are expecting from you. So patient safety is also one of the major part of clinical research interview. Followed by handling. Okay, you are handling a lot of things, right from documentation to IMP. IMP is the investigational medical product. Okay, the experimental medication. You are handling the lab sample. Okay, so how to ship the lab sample, which are the laboratory you have worked with, how to manage the temperature, because you have to store the IMP at a particular temperature. What is temperature excursion? What happens when the IP is not in the correct temperature? Do you administer this IP or not? How do you file the deviation? What is the protocol violation? Okay, so these are the kind of question which are situational also, and also helps your understanding, and the interviewer can estimate whether you are capable of handling the situation, or even if you're not capable, then can we teach you? Okay, how teachable are you? They also check whether you are adaptable or not. Are you adamant on some point? Okay, so always be humble, always be having a learning attitude. Even in an interview question, you say that you will handle a situation with X, Y, and Z steps. Then tell me that this is my understanding of it. There can be laws and regulation which I do not know about. Then they will clearly tell you what is the ideal answer of it. Okay, what is the ideal situation of it. So even in the interview, you will get to learn a lot. Okay, in interview, it is not that you display your prowess, but you also get to learn a lot from the interviewer itself. Okay, so this was about the situational question. Now coming about industry updates. Okay, so once they have established that you have a very good core understanding, you can handle the situation, they will check how updated are you. Because in the current scenario, whenever you're working in a particular industry, it is very important that you're updated. You know what is happening in the industry, which are the major rules, major regulations that occur. Okay, so when it comes to industry updates, recently, a couple of months back, we have received the E6R3 amendment update. Okay, in this particular amendment, you need to know what is E6R3, what are the updates in E6R3, how these updates impact the industry. Because this question, I can assure you that in 2025 and 2026 and even in 2027, they will ask you that do you know anything about E6R3 amendment? Okay, and what are the updates of it? The third question will be, what is the impact on industry? Okay, so if you are anyone who is preparing for the interview, may that be of any role, you have to be very, very thorough about E6R3. Okay, so I would request you to go and read E6R3 amendment. What are the critical areas? What is the impact on the industry? Okay, I've also posted videos on E6R3 on the YouTube channel. You can even go and refer to those videos also. Okay, so please make sure that you are updated with the industry. The second major area would be the new concept. Now, when it comes to clinical research, it is a cutting edge industry and it is ever evolving industry. And there are new concepts each and every day. For example, there are new terminologies such as risk-based monitoring, quality by design approach, patient-centric approach, decentralized clinical trial. Now you might have heard these terms or might have not heard these terms, but understanding them is very, very critical, because I have seen CRAs who know or who work in a risk-based monitoring approach, but when I ask them to define risk-based monitoring, they are not able to do that. Even what is the quality by design approach? Okay, so it is a quality which you implement in design, that is not the right answer. Okay, again, when it comes to patient centric approach, which are the technology, which are the methods that are used in patient centric approach? Okay, when it comes to centralized clinical trial design and decentralized, what are the different differences and challenges that you need to know? So whatever the new concepts are there in clinical research industry, you need to be aware of those. Last but not the least, regulatory update. Okay, the entire industry or entire country runs on a particular regulatory authority. Okay, so you need to know the regulatory update. So if you are someone from India, then you need to know the NDCT rules of 2019. Okay, there was a major haul in regulatory update when it comes to clinical research with the NDCT 2019. I have seen that it is being more than 5 years to NDCT 2019, and people are still getting confused. People are still giving wrong answers for NDCT 2019. Okay, you might have read, you might have understood this particular update 5 years before, but when it comes to interview, you need to brush up. You need to have a very clear understanding of the rules and the regulation of your regulatory authority. Again, if you are in US, please go through the US FDA regulatory updates. Again, each and every regulatory agency improves over the time and the submission timelines increases. Okay, so day by day, what is the submission timeline? They will ask you, if I submit a clinical trial application, how many days will it take to get approved? The sponsor might ask you in the interview. You need to know that. Again, what is the SA reporting timeline? What is the 24-hour window? What is the 14 days report window? They will ask you regarding the approval timeline. Is there any provision of automatic approval? If yes, then what is the timeline on automatic approval? Can you initiate clinical trial directly? These are the critical questions, and you need to understand that when it comes to industry update, you need to be updated of all the activities in that particular industry. Okay, so if you do not know any of these three major areas which I've mentioned, then please go back, please research on this particular aspects and be prepared of this particular interview concepts. Again, coming on clarity on expectation. Okay, now let's assume that they have selected you, they are happy with you. Okay, and they will ask you a question. Okay, they will clearly tell you that, do you have any question for us? And I have seen 9 out of 10 people saying we do not have any questions. Please don't do that. It is very, very critical that you ask question. Always ask critical relevant questions. Okay, there is no stupid question, there are no stupid answers. Okay, if you are a fresher, it is very important that you clearly ask them, will I have to visit the office? What is the timeline of joining? What is the notice period? What are your expectations from me? What an ideal CRC looks like from your perspective? Okay, so whenever they ask you, and they will definitely ask you, do you have any questions for us? Please prepare your questions. Even if you don't have question now, I would recommend each and every one of you to write down at least 3 questions for them. It clearly demonstrate that it is not that they are asking you all sort of question, it is you also comprehending the entire job role. Okay, it makes you look very much confident, very much pragmatic, and a smarter candidate. Because I've seen myself, I have been in interview board, and whenever I ask them, do you have any question for us? And whenever the candidate asks any critical questions or important question, it always impresses me. I always remember such candidates. Okay. So whenever they give an opportunity, please ask question. Next thing would be about the role. Okay, so always ask about the role. Always ask questions such as what is the working culture look like? What are the working hours? Will there be any travel visit? What kind of traveling am I looking at? These are important questions, because these questions and the answers which the interviewer gives you, it will help you to understand that particular job role and take a decision whether you want to go for that job or not. Okay, do not blindly go into any particular job, because it is your time, it is your effort, it is the number of years that you are putting in a job. Okay, so always take informed decision, and that is why you have to know about the role. If you do not know, then always ask about the role, followed by the growth questions. Okay, this is the major area that no one talks about. Okay, even in my first initial years in clinical research, I never asked this question, but always ask about growth. Please ask them that what are the promotion cycle in your company. For example, if I start my job in November, will I be considered for the March appraisals? If not, then what is the appraisal cycle? Let's say they say you're not eligible, you'll be eligible in next March. So understand that it is almost 15-16 months that you'll not be getting any revisions in your salary. Then it clearly indicates that you need to ask the optimum amount or optimum pay so that you can survive and thrive for those 15 months. Okay, ask them what is the promotion cycle look like. Once you have that understanding, ask them that what is the next role for me. Okay, once I perform well in this particular role, then what is the next role for me? What is the growth cycle? Okay, what my career looks like in your eyes. Okay, that will clearly tell you whether they are looking you at a short term or a long term. Okay, and it also impresses them that this particular candidate is looking to stay in the company, not leave within 2-3 years. Okay, so always ask growth oriented question. Next thing is regarding the company experience. Okay, and what are the expectation. Okay, so once they ask you all sort of question, you also ask them that what are your expectation from me. Okay, the ideal question would be that what does an ideal candidate look like in this particular role. Okay, if you're applying for a CRA role, then tell me, then ask them that what does a good CRA look like for you. Okay, what should be the qualities in a good CRA that impresses you, or what should be the qualities in a CRA that makes him a senior CRA. Which are the areas do you think that I should improve upon. Okay, so such expectation needs to be discussed. Okay, and that clarity you need to gain. Okay, so always whenever they give you any opportunity on gaining clarity on asking any question, please go for it. Now, coming on to the most important aspect, the salary and negotiation. A lot of freshers, even experienced people, do not know about the market. Okay, I can tell you very honestly, it is possible that you are underpaid or overpaid. It is very important to understand the industry range that you are in. What is the ideal amount of salary that a particular industry have? For example, in India, I'm talking in Indian rupees. For a CRC, okay, you have 1.5 to 3 lakh per annum. Okay, when it comes to CRA 1 position, which is a traveling job, it is 6 to 8.5 lakhs. For a CRA 2, it is 20, 10 to 12 lakhs. And for a senior CRA, it is 18 to 22 lakhs. And I have generated these numbers by discussing to all my colleagues, to all my CRCs, on all the website, on the all job forum, even the HRs I have discussed with, and I have gotten this estimate. So whenever I apply for a senior CRA job, I know even if my salary is 10 lakhs per annum, I can ask minimum 18 to 22 lakhs per annum depending upon my performance and what is the industry standard. If the industry standard is 18, then I'm not getting below 18. Okay, you should be very much firm. If you are capable of being a senior CRA, then do not accept a salary which is below the industry standard. And if I ask them that I want 30 lakhs per annum, where the average is 18 to 22 lakh, that doesn't make sense. You might get 30 lakh per annum. That is once in a million opportunity. but it is very important that you understand the industry range. Okay, so whenever you go for any kind of interview, always understand. Okay, now there is a culture where they directly have a pre-screening call where they ask you that what is your current salary and what is the expectation. Okay, so clearly have an understanding of the industry range. Based on that, you can give them the numbers. Again, the next aspect is increment. In the pre-screening call, they will clearly ask you what is the percentage of increment you're looking for in current salary. Okay, if you tell them that I have XYZ salary and I'm looking for 30% increment. Now, please understand that whenever it comes to clinical research industry, 30% is standard. It is not a rule, not a benchmark, but I have not seen a candidate who got less than 30%. People get 50, even 100% if they are underpaid or it is a standard increment to a job. Okay, so it clearly depends upon what kind of budget they have. So before giving your number, always ask them what is the budget for this particular role. If they say a number which is very very low, then it doesn't make sense of appearing in that interview, because you're not getting the money, and money is one of the important criterias, so that you can earn your livelihood, you can function, you can use this money to purchase a lifestyle, to purchase a life, have some savings. Okay, so whenever you ask for an increment, always ask for 30%, and before giving any kind of number, always ask what is their budget for this particular role. It will clearly put you in driver's seat whether you want to appear for this interview or not. And if they have a very good budget, then you know that you have to perform very well in the interview, because you're going to get paid very well. Okay, so always remember to ask for an increment that should be minimum 30%. Next thing is negotiation. Okay, so like I've told you that always ask their budget first. Okay, then once the interview is completed, they will give you an offer. Always remember that offer is never final. They will tell you it is non-negotiable, but always understand and believe me that they conduct multiple interview rounds. They are not willing to put that effort and go again through the cycle. Okay, once they give you an offer, they have reached the end of the interview and they want you in their company. Okay, they do not want any other effort to be put in. Always remember that the offer is critical for you, but it is critical for them also, because they have timelines for hiring candidates. Okay, so if you find that particular offer is not within your budget range or not what you expected, then always ask them that I have seen your offer, but I am not satisfied for it. This is my number. Can you please reevaluate? They'll tell you, no, no, this is my final number. Then ask them that need some amount of time. In the meantime, you can also ask for a revised salary. And I've seen that 6 out of 10 times they come up with a higher number. Okay, and it is very important for you to get the optimum amount of salary, because remember, this particular salary is for 2 years. No one gives you promotion or increment in 2 years. Okay, so they will tell you that we'll give you increment in 3 months, but they will not give it in writing. So always assume that this particular salary which you are getting in this new job, it is for at least 2 years. Will this salary be okay for me in the current inflation? With the rising prices of each and every commodity in the outside world, will this salary make me feel happy in this particular job? Okay, so always go for negotiation and get the better amount. Last but not the least would be the confirmation. Okay, now I've seen people who accept the job offer just on verbal confirmation or on WhatsApp. Okay, those are not official communication. Whenever you get an offer, don't get that offer orally. Ask them to write an email to share the offer letter, and that too in writing on company letterhead. Okay, get the confirmation from them, and once you accept the offer, you provide the confirmation via email. Okay, because once you join in the company and if you have lower salary, you cannot fight that, because you have left the old company, you cannot go back. So it doesn't make any sense. So always be smart. Ask them to send that offer over email, confirm that offer on the email, so that you have a documentation, a proof which clearly demonstrate what you agreed upon, what are their employment requirements. Okay, so that is about the salary and negotiations. Now let us assume that you have the offer in your hand, you're very happy. Now comes the joining and confirmation part of it. Okay, so now you have decided that you'll resign from the company. Ask them what is the notice period that you're expecting. Okay, before that you should know that what is the notice period that your company has. If you're a fresher, then there's no issue, but if you are an experienced person who is already working, then ask your employer what is the notice period. Okay, do not assume anything. I've seen people who assume that I have a 30-day notice period, they resign from the job, they accept a new offer, and suddenly the employer says that the notice period is 90 days, and if you don't serve the 90 days notice period, I will mark you absconding. Please remember that in the current clinical research industry, they always run a background verification. If you have absconded the current job, if you have run away, they will find out and they will terminate you. So never do that. Always ask the notice period from your current employer. Clearly explain or inform the future employer of the notice period. Ask them whether the notice period can be delayed. Ask them it can be extended. Clearly give the future employer the correct picture. Even you can ask the future employer that can my joining be delayed or can it be extended. Okay, it is very important because you never know what kind of circumstances you are going to have. If you have 90 days notice period, that is 3 months. Anything can happen in 3 months. Okay, so when it comes to notice period, it is very important that you get clarity from the current employer as well as the future employer. Coming on to documentation. Now, if you're joining any particular new job, there are major documentary requirements. You need your salary slip. If you're a fresher, you don't need that. You need experience letter. You need the current package detail, whatever you have. You need the annual salary statement. You need provident fund number. You need your degree scan copies, your certifications in clinical research. Okay, so all this documentation should be ready. Okay, do not start preparing for the interview before collecting these documents. Always have this document ready, because I have seen very good offers being taken away from candidate because they missed a document. Okay, they will ask you, we need three recent salary slip. Always have your salary slip. If you're not downloading the salary slip, if you're not getting it from your employer, always go back and ask them for a salary slip, because that is the only proof that clearly demonstrate what is your salary. Okay, and always have the scan copies with you ready, so that whenever the future employer asks you, you can immediately give them. Okay, this is hardly a 10-minute job, but if you don't have document on that particular day, it doesn't make any sense and your dream job can vanish. Okay, so always have that particular documentation. Now next aspect is the confirmation. Okay, so whenever you're accepting a particular offer, then always take a confirmation from the employer that we have selected you for this particular thing, and always give a confirmation to them as well by sharing the resignation email as well, so that they know that you have resigned for this particular position and you are joining those role. Okay, always get their acknowledgement also. Okay, so I have seen candidate who have resigned, who have shared the resignation email, but they have not received any kind of acknowledgement, and after a week or two, they say that this particular position is frozen or not. If you get the confirmation and if they pull out a job, they are by law required to pay some amount to you. Okay, so always get the confirmation and give the confirmation from both the ends. Last but not the least, the formalities. Okay, always ask what are the exit formalities to the current employers, and always ask the joining formalities of the future employer. They will tell you that I will share you the joining formalities later, but ask them to at least give you an email that what are the formalities documentation required on that day, because there are some documents which are required which you cannot take after you leave the company. So ask them what are the joining formalities, what kind of devices will I need to visit the office. Okay, who is going to pay for it. Ask such questions. Okay, these formalities are assumed by each and every candidate, but these are very critical. Okay, so always get a clarity of it. Okay, so that is about the joining formalities and confirmation. So thank you for watching this video till the end, and in this video you would have understood that we have covered each and every aspect of the interview. Once you watch this video till the end, you are in a better position to go to the interview, to accept the offer and be a successful professional. Okay, and please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It takes a lot of efforts to make such long videos, such helpful videos. So your subscription would be very helpful for the growth of the channel, and we can help a lot of students in the future also. Thank you.